blessing, as always, to be here with you all this morning. This morning, as we've been continuing through the month of February to discuss sort of some of these foundational principles of our faith, some of these foundational principles of Christianity, and maybe redefining the way that we understand them or the way that we see them. And so this morning, the thing that we're going to talk about this morning is holiness. And holiness, it's an important aspect of our faith. Christ says, "Be holy as I am holy." And this idea of being and pursuing holiness is essential to who we are as believers. But if we're going to be holy, as Christ is holy, and if we're going to pursue holiness, then we have to understand what it is that we're heading for and the direction that we're heading in. Sometimes holiness gets mistaken as a synonym for like perfection. That holiness is sort of this unattainable goal that sits above and in front of us that we can never really get to, that we can never really go after. And I would contend this morning that maybe that's a misdefinition of holiness as the Bible intends us to understand it. You see, because Christ wouldn't say, "Be holy if I am holy," if he's saying, he wouldn't say, "Be sinless as I am sinless," because that's an unattainable goal. For Christians, that's not real. That perfection that God lived out, obviously we know as sinful people, can't be attained by us. And so therefore, there must be some sort of achievable goal. There must be something there that we can do, that we can be. You know, the best definition of holiness that I've come across is this idea of being set apart. A set apartness, a differentiation between things. Is that something that is holy is something that is sacred, something that is set aside for a divine purpose. And so, when we talk about holiness this morning, we're going to talk about it from that aspect. The aspect of being set aside for a divine purpose. Being set aside to be used for something really, really special. At our house, on New Year's Eve or on occasions like that, we pop the sparkling cider. I don't know if you all are familiar with this tradition. It's pretty fancy. You got to go down to Meijer and you spend about $4.99 on a bottle of sparkling cider, and it basically is just grape juice with bubbles, more or less. But it's very important and very special to us as a family, and so we do this for occasions. The only problem is that sometimes you run short on like special occasions and these sorts of things. And so right now, currently in our lettuce crisper drawer, there's like 2 bottles of sparkling champagne that have been there since like 2008 or something, or 2009. We just haven't had that many super special occasions in the last, ever since Tim and I graduated, I don't know, what have we really been up to? And so it's silly because they sit there for long periods of time. And it's not like, it's $4.99. It's not like Dom Perignon or anything. We're doing all right. But it's important to us. And we know that when that gets broke out or busted out, that something important has happened. And so when we talk about holiness, we're a little bit talking about that, except we're talking about you and I. That you and I, when we become followers of Christ, we are no longer just average, ordinary folk. We're no longer just the everyday. We have been set apart by God for a specific purpose. And holiness is the understanding of that purpose, an understanding of my place and my role in that purpose. When I was teaching, I used to have to dress like this 4 out of the 5 days a week. Friday I got to break it, but I used to have to dress like this 4 out of 5 days a week. And when I first started teaching, I loved it because I kind of like to dress up. I kind of like fancy clothes, and so I had all these ties and tie bars and these nice slacks, and I kept my shoes just so, and all this kind of stuff when I first started teaching. And I quickly realized that usually when you get dressed up, right, you're going to something fancy, you're going on a nice date, you're going to a wedding, you're going to a formal dinner, you get to do these things. When you're a teacher, you still have to dress like you're doing those things, but also you have to do crazy, absurd things in dress clothes. Where it's like, hey, go teach gym class. But, while wearing, slacks and a dress shirt. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure how to, oh yeah, let's play some dodgeball. Well, I'm dressed up like I'm going to the theater, playing dodgeball against a bunch of kids in basketball shorts. That doesn't seem fair. And so the more that I had to teach, the less special it became dressing up, because I had to do it 4 days a week, and I had to do all these silly, absurd things wearing dress clothes. And so it just became less special. And sometimes you and I do this in our lives too, where we come to know Christ, and we become set aside for a specific purpose. But we haven't really latched on to what that purpose is yet, and we haven't really figured it out. And so we become people who just kind of like do their everyday average things in dress clothes. It's sort of like when you hear about the celebrities who keep their Oscars in the bathroom and stuff to keep them humble. That's sort of what you and I can become, is we can sort of become Oscars that sit in the bathroom. And my contention this morning is that when we talk about holiness, and we talk about God's will for you and I, it's that we would live set apart for a higher goal. We're going to talk this morning out of one of my favorite Old Testament stories. I'm talking Judges 7. And it says this, Judges 7:1 says this, "Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, 'You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Now announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead.' So 20,000 men left, while 10,000 remained." So Gideon's got this army, and they're supposed to go in and defeat the army of Midian. And God looks at them and goes, you have too many troops. And this is the part where God does not get his NSA clearance anymore. God's Pentagon credentials get revoked on this day, because he looks at an army and says, too big. Never before and never since in the history of world military conflicts has a leader looked at his army and goes, there's too many people fighting here, I don't like it. I want less. But God does not work inside of the confines of human understanding and human wisdom. And so that's exactly what he says. He says, I want less. So he says, if you tremble with fear, go home. Which, if I was there, would seem like a pretty good deal for me. I wouldn't have to read the rest of the story. I'd have been in this first 10,000. Said, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to do this. 20,000 men left, 10,000 remain. Verse 4, but the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. If I say this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps, from those who kneel down to drink. Okay. 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with these 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. So, this is a strange story. And I'm not going to pretend like it's not. God has some extremely weird military tactics going on here. And he has some extremely strange standards for his soldiers. He said, if you tremble with fear, if you're at all afraid, go home. Okay, now, I want to see how these guys drink out of a lake. This is important. To my understanding, they don't still do this at boot camp. They don't still do the drink out of a lake test, because I don't think that it's really relevant these days. But it's what God does. And so he does, and he gets the army down to 300 men. Down to 300 men. And of course what happens is, these 300 men, they end up defeating the army of Midian. And that's a cool story in and of itself. It's just not the story we're going to tell this morning. We're going to tell the beginning of this story, because I can't get over it. Every time I read it, I can't get over it. And I was continuing to think and pray on it this week, and I thought, this is a strange story. Because for you and I, in the church, we think, bring it on. You got 10,000, bring them on. You got 30,000, bring them on. You got 300,000, bring them on. We'll make room. We got it going on. But to really serve the Lord, and to do what the Lord is setting in front of us, there's a greater calling. And there's a higher calling that exists for you and I. That there are many. You see, when God puts out a call for an army, there might be 30,000 that show up. But how many of those that show up are really in fighting shape? How many of us are really in fighting shape? How many of us really have understood this principle of holiness that says that I am set apart for something different because of what God has done in me? Now let's take a look at what happens here. The first thing that happens is 30,000 guys show up. And that's a pretty decent-sized army. It's, especially for the time, it would have been a good-sized army. And God says, this isn't going to work. And God's first test is simply this. Anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. He gives people the option. He says, if you're afraid, you can turn around and go back. And what happens? 2/3 of these guys go away. I'm going to have to stop there, because I'm fascinated by this. 30,000 guys show up to be in this army. And the very first chance they get, 20,000 of them go back home. It's like, what did you even show up for? What did you even come for? You showed up to be a part of this army, and the first time someone says, hey, are you afraid? 20,000 of them go, yes, I'm leaving, I'm heading out. What the heck? That's the thing I keep saying when I'm reading this. I'm going, what was these guys' long-term plan? What were they thinking? What were they planning on? And as I was reading this, I was sort of incredulous this week as I was reading, going through this, thinking, what? That can't be right. And yet, I think about us in the church sometimes, and I think about Christians sometimes, and I think, how many of us become Christians, call ourselves Christians, and have no idea what we've signed up for? None. Have no concept of what real Christianity is. Have no concept of what following Christ is. We just kind of did it for whatever reason. Maybe our families were always involved in church. We became a Christian that way. Or maybe our husband or wife, when we got married, were involved in church. And we just kind of fell into it that way. And we found ourselves, maybe long term, as a part of church, calling ourselves Christians, identifying this way, and still having really no idea what we signed up for, no idea what God has set in front of us. It's a scary thought. Because if you really believe, like I do, that God has a plan and a purpose for your life, if you believe, like I do, that God has a high calling on each and every one of your life, it's kind of scary then to think of how many people miss it. Just miss it. And I don't mean people that, struggle, or people that are seeking God and feel like they're not getting answers. I'm talking about the people that show up and don't have any kind of engagement with what God is doing in their life at all. People that just show up and just exist. People that just wear the name tag. It freaks me out as a pastor, because I think, oh my gosh, are there people sitting out there right now that are doing that? And I think that's terrifying. I love you all, but it scares the mess out of me to think that people could come to church and sit there and then leave without ever being challenged to have any engagement with what God is doing in their lives. Too many people treat Christianity sort of like there's like the entry-level free trial version, and then there's the trial you actually have to sign up and pay money for. And too many people spend their entire lives on the free trial version of Christianity because it works fine enough. Right? It gives them what they want. They come on Sunday mornings and they have like a warm, happy feeling on Sunday mornings. They can say they're a Christian and they're a part of something, and they do this, that, and the other. And it's sort of like, you know what? Why would I pay the $4.99 to get the full version when this free trial version of Christianity is working just fine for me? I get everything I need out of it. And it's sort of like, you think you've got what it is, but really, you haven't even scratched the surface. You haven't even opened the door. That it's not optional. The seeking of God's will, the seeking of God's direction and plan and purpose for your life the living as a set-apart, distinct person from the world, the adapting and the becoming more Christ-like isn't like an option. That's not something that's just for serious Christians. It's following Christ. It's right in there. And it scares me to think that at the very first challenge issued them, 2/3 of people go, nope, I'm done. Freaks me out. And yet what Gideon is left with here, it's hard because we're talking about Gideon and Midian this morning, and that's just confusing, and I don't like it because I keep getting switched back and forth. But Gideon's army with a G, they're down to 10,000. Okay, cool. And then God says, that's too many. Okay. And I can't imagine what Gideon is thinking at this point. He's got this army of 30,000 guys he starts out with. That's pretty good. And now God has winnowed it down to 10,000, and Gideon's got to go, okay, cool, 10,000. All right, God. I see what you're trying to... I get the lesson, God. Not everybody is a part of the thing. And that, I get it, God. That's cool. 10,000, let's go. And God goes, no, it's not right. It's still not right. And so then God does this weird thing. And the Old Testament is full of stories of God doing weird things. But this story is really weird. It says, there's too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. So Gideon takes the men down to the water. He says, I want to read this exactly, because I don't want to mess it up. I don't want you guys to think I'm exaggerating, making this sound weirder than it is, because this is in there, Judges 7. You can read it for yourself. Separate those who lap the water with their tongue, as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink. That is God's command for Gideon. And I think to myself, even still as I read this, I think, I get the first thing. You know, if you're afraid, don't come with you. I could preach a sermon on that. I didn't have to read the second part. I could say, in order to follow God, you have to have no fear. And people would cheer, and they would say amen, and it would be great. But I don't think that's really the point of what God is trying to say here. The second part is even weirder, but to me it's even more relevant to our spiritual lives. And this is why. God is looking for a people of holiness, a people set apart. And there will be people that at the first sign of trouble, where God says, if you're afraid, don't go. There are always going to be people that go, I'm not afraid. I want to fight. I want to do this. I want to whatever. But the challenge for them will be this. When you don't understand what God is doing, will you still trust and obey? When you can't see the point or the purpose of what God is doing in your life in this moment, will you still be faithful? I think that's a very different question than what we're starting out with here. I think there are many of us who can say, God, I understand that you don't want me to be afraid. God, I understand that you want me to do these things. I understand this, that, and the other. But the real dividing line, and that next level of faith, that holiness level of faith, where you say, I am set apart. I do not live and behave like those outside of the church. I don't have the mindset or the perspective of those outside the church. Says, can I be faithful when I do not understand what God is doing? You see, because even for those outside of faith, they can go, yeah, you shouldn't be afraid if you're going to go in and fight a battle. If that makes sense. It makes sense to me. It would make sense to anybody. That makes sense to agnostics, atheists, anybody of any different religion. They're going to go, okay, yeah, that's fine. The difference in the differentiating line is going to be, can I trust God when the thing that God is asking me to do doesn't make any sense? Can I trust God when I don't understand what He's doing? Can I trust God when I don't understand why He's not doing anything? Or why it seems like He's not doing anything? Can I trust God when I struggle, when I suffer? Can I live in peace and at rest when things aren't right? See, too often when we talk about holiness, we talk about it in the sense of, oh, I have to behave this way. I can't make any mistakes or I'm not holy. I just think that's garbage. Because we're going to make mistakes. You and I are going to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. Lord knows. constantly throwing my car into drive when I mean to throw it into reverse. It's a wonder I haven't driven through a wall. That's not what God is talking about here. That's not what we're talking about here this morning. Is this idea of not making mistakes. The idea is, do I trust God with everything that is set in front of me? Will I believe the things about God that I believe today when everything goes wrong? Will my perspective on God change based on my circumstances? Or will I be faithful and trust His faithfulness no matter what? See, that's what makes you and I different from those outside the church, from those outside of faith. That's what makes you and I different. You see, there are people outside of the church who seem to live very nice lives. They're generous, they're charitable, they're kind, so on and so forth. There are people you see, and you see it, I saw a post on Facebook, and I almost never get on Facebook anymore because, why? If I wanted to watch strangers yell at each other, I'd just turn on MTV. I saw a post that said, there's good Christians and bad Christians. There's good atheists and bad atheists, and there's this and there's that. Just be a good person. And I'm like, it's one of those things that sounds great, but is really just unbelievably stupid. It is just dumb. Picture, there's good atheists and bad atheists. Their picture is Bill Gates and Lenin. It's like, who is comparing Bill Gates and Lenin? Who has time to come up with these stupid pictures? But at any rate, and but I saw it and I chewed on it, because this is what I do now. I let stuff get under my craw too often. That's so stupid. You know why? Because the world's definition of a good person is fluid, right? Sometimes a good person is this, a good person is that. A good person is a person who is kind, is generous. A good person is a person who doesn't yell at people. A good person, whatever. Who doesn't, who's not Vladimir Lenin, I guess. If you're not Lenin, you're a good person these days. I guess that's the new standard. Here's the difference. There might be good people and bad people, but you will not find holy people outside of faith in Christ. And that's the difference. Jesus doesn't say, be good as I am good. Jesus doesn't say, be nice as I am nice. He says, be holy as I am holy. Be set apart for something bigger than yourself. Be set apart for something bigger than what the world has to offer you. Be set apart for something bigger than just living and dying and being nice and being good. Be holy as I am holy. Be a part of what I am doing here on the earth. Be faithful. Respond to my faithfulness. Live how I have you to live. Live set apart. Love people when it's difficult. Serve people who are marginalized and oppressed and can't give you anything back. Trust God even when all of your circumstances say otherwise. Live counterculturally to what your mind is telling you to do, to what logic is telling you to do. There's no military strategy on earth that involves the drinking of water out of a pond. There just isn't. But if it's what God says to do, then it's the right thing to do. Regardless of whether it's nice or good or logical. It doesn't matter. If it's what God says to do, it's holy, and then we do it. We don't have to understand. And let me tell you, church, there's freedom in that. There is freedom in the fact that I don't have to understand everything God does in my life. I don't. And you know what? Sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes I ask God for things, and I don't get a response. Sometimes I ask God for good things, and I don't get a response. Because God doesn't want to give me good things. He wants to give me holy things. He doesn't want to make me good. He wants to make me holy. He doesn't want to give me everything that I ask for because He wants to give me everything that I need and everything that He has for me. And that's difficult. I don't stand up here pretending to be like, yeah, this is good. Why can't you guys just figure it out? No, I struggle with this. I fight with this. I wrestle with this because I trust me. That's the bottom line. I guess we're just going to be honest. I trust me. I like me. I think I have a lot of really good plans for me. But the problem is, I have a lot of good plans for me. I don't have a lot of holy plans for me. I got a lot of good plans for what I want to do, but I don't have a lot of godly plans. I don't have a lot of God-given desires and dreams. I have to rely on God to give me those. I can't conjure those up myself. And so the question that stands before you and me and every believer in the whole world says this: do you want to be good or do you want to be holy? Do you want what you want or do you want what God has for you? And there's a difference. And there is a daily surrender that goes along with that, where I am constantly reminding myself to say to God, I don't just want what's good, I want what's holy. I don't just want what makes sense, I want what you have for me. I don't just want what I think is going to work. I want the things that you have set apart for me. I want the plan and the purpose that you are forming in me and have been forming in me since before I was born. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. I want to do something that matters. I want you to move in my heart, in my spirit. I want you to set me apart. I want to do what you have set in front of me to do. And I can't have both, so I choose you. I can't have what I want and what you want. I can't have what I think is right and what's holy. I can't have both, so I choose you. God says to Gideon, you have too many men. And why does God say to Gideon he has too many men? Because if you win this war with 30,000 guys, you'll think we won this war because of our own strength. We won this war because we had such a big, great army. But if you win this war with 300 guys, you'll know it was because of me. If I find success in my life because of my abilities, my talents, my strengths, the temptation is always going to be for me to say, look what I accomplished, look what I did, look at the path I drew out for myself. But if I am able to accomplish things in my weaknesses, in the areas that aren't my strength or my talents, if I am able to become successful, if I am able to achieve things in my weakness, in my inability, in the places where I have to rely on God, then there's no temptation for me to take credit. All I can stand back and say is, look at God's faithfulness. Look at the goodness of God. It wasn't me. I didn't win this war. I didn't win this battle. I couldn't have. Look at God's faithfulness. And when I look back at the end of my life, I have the option to work really hard in talents and gifts and abilities and in circles that I feel confident in. And maybe I have the ability to find some earthly success there. Maybe I have the ability to find some earthly gratification there. But at the end of my life, I want to look back and I want to say, look at the things that God did in my life. Look at the things that God did in my family. Look at the doors that God opened that I can't even explain. Look at the ways in which God was faithful to me. At the end of the day, that's what I want to say was the defining mark of my life. Not the things I did. Not the things I was or became, but what God did in my life. Who God is. And that's holiness. I don't want what the world wants. I don't want to be what the world wants me to be. I don't want to do the things the world has for me to do. I want to live different. I want to have different standards. I want to have different goals. I want to have different plans and purposes set out in front of me. Because my end goal is different. It's not to say this is what I did. It's to say this is what God did. It's not to say this is who I am. It's to say this is who God is, and He is great. And He's been great to me, and He'll be great to you. you bow your heads with me? Father God, we're grateful this morning that we serve a holy God. That you are not like other gods. That you are above and separate and distinct from us as people and from anything that we try and project onto you, God. You are who you are. You are holy. Lord, and this morning we want to pursue holiness as you have set it out in front of us, Lord. Holiness that says, I will live differently. Holiness that says, I am different. Holiness that says, I am set apart because you have set me apart. We are grateful this morning, Lord, for the call that you have placed on each and every one of our lives. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you all.